we go then. Okay, today is a nice, crispy, frosty Christmas card of a field morning out there in sunny England. Crispy, frosty, it really does look like a Christmas card, and it's the 9th of December. We have got two fantastic teams for you. Now, I know I keep saying this, that I get a good couple of groups each week, but this group are going to blow your socks off. Such intelligent, interesting, funny, charismatic people coming up for these next two presentations. So the first group is Oliver. And when I hear Oliver's voice, I will start the timer. And Ollie, I wish you all the very best, my friend. Good luck.
Thanks, Tony. I think you forgot good looking, but we will move swiftly on. Good morning, all, and welcome to Wayne Enterprises. We're absolutely thrilled that you guys have decided to entrust us with your development at Bramley Close in the construction of the 6 new builds. Now, before you get stuck into the snacks, packs and treats that we have put on for you, we just want to introduce you to all the team that will be guiding this project from just a few sheets of paper to the finished product and project that you guys have designed. We do ask that you actually refrain from the wine and spirits until the end. There are a couple of signatures still needed, and well, it is only 11:15 in the morning. The main aim of this presentation, it is to roadmap for you, our clients, exactly how we will deliver this project, and we're hoping you find it insightful and hopefully slightly interesting. As always, there will be time for questions at the end, so please make sure you make use of those Wayne Enterprises Parker pens that we sent to you and jot down any questions in readiness for the end. So without further ado, who are Wayne Enterprises? Well, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to all of our team. First up, there's our site manager, Damo, who is first aid trained and has a wealth of experience in the construction industry. We have our contracts manager, Wayne, who also has an abundance of managerial and high-level knowledge. We've got Derek, our health and safety consultant, and he's worked in the Middle East for 10 years, so is exceptionally well placed to ensure the safe running of our site. And we've got Andy, who is our assistant manager and with a very keen eye for detail. He's also first aid trained. And then there's me, and I'm Ollie, and I'll be overseeing the project with the team above. So Wayne Enterprises is a company. We've been at the forefront of SME development for nearly a decade. So we're young enough to be innovative with our ecological core values. But on the other hand, we've also been around long enough to know that trust and communication are at the heart of our little company. And for that, we thank you for choosing us. So moving swiftly on, we're on to Damo, who is going to show you the project overview and the site plan.
Thanks for that, Ollie. Yeah, as he says, my name's Damo. Been in this game 15 years, bit of a strange one. Started off as an apprentice electrician, worked my way up to site manager. Not many sparks managed to get into management. It's more of a chippy sort of role, but here I am. So yeah, for this, it's phase 1 of the project, building the brick and block, which is highlighted in brown. Hopefully we'll get the other 2 phases, but let's see how we do with this first. We also noticed on the initial site visits that there's some footpaths damaged on the existing footpath, so we're going to repair that as well. Hopefully that'll keep us in good stead with the locals and the residents and things, and they'll see that we're serious about stuff and we're not here just fly by night. We've estimated roughly a 30-week timescale on this, but if things go well, we have no problems. We might bring it in a bit earlier for ourselves and you, so we'll see how we go. Yeah, and this is a site setup. This is what our thoughts are, but if there's anything you want to change or you're not happy with, feel free to let us know, and we'll make the adjustments accordingly. We're fully set up with a 3-metre acoustic barrier all the way around, again to minimise disruption to the school and the existing residents just behind the site. We'll have security on the gate with a barrier, so we get no unauthorised entry through the day. We've Also contract out to Big Dog Security for the CCTV, as you can see there, which is monitored 24 hours a day with a 30-minute response time from the police out of sight hours. Again, we've gone for that option because it's very, very minimal disruption to anybody. There's no loud noises, lights or anything. So late of a night, even the burglars won't know it's going off until they get the silver bracelets on. So yeah, we've also tried to protect the greenfield area best we can. We've fenced it off, wrapped the trees, to try and protect them best we can. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, you've all got my contact details, so I'm available day and night. I've also given these to the school and the residents, so if there is any problems, they can contact me directly, and hopefully we can address them before they get too serious. Yeah, so that's it. If that's it, like Ollie said, any questions, come at the end, and we'll see what we can do about them. So yeah, traffic management. Back to you, Ollie.
Thanks, Damo. Yeah, so the traffic management plan. Obviously, now this is vital to the success of any project. And with the, well, to be honest, absolutely fantastic residential location of your site, it comes with a host of challenges regards to traffic management to ensure the efficient and very importantly, the safety of the site. I suppose the most prominent of these challenges is obviously the school. With safety being our priority, we've implemented a no-stop zone on School Road at all times, and this will be enforced by our site security. Not only will this keep the road safe and free-flowing, but it will also mean that the ambulance station to the north of the site will have clear and easy access at all times. As with all schools, and as Damo said, there is a daily drop-off and pick-up of children. As such, we've scheduled the working day to start at 8 a.m. and finish at 5 p.m., therefore avoiding any bottlenecks of traffic in the area. And similarly, due to our excellent relationships with our suppliers, deliveries to the site will take place in the window between 9:30 and 3 p.m., again, to avoid any bottlenecks and high levels of traffic in the area. Regards on-site traffic, we've decided to compound this in order to minimize the disruption to the local area. We did briefly visit the idea of traffic lights and alternative entrances and exits, but with the farm, the school, the warehouse, and of course the emergency services, we really felt that keeping traffic to a minimum around this site was a priority, and so compounding everything on site was the safest option. As a general rule, public and people don't mix with plant very well, so we've tried to emphasize at all times the separation of these elements via our site plan and throughout the project. There will of course be a strict 5 mph speed limit on site, and this will be signposted throughout. And we've got a bit of a luxury on this site. It is a larger site for 6 houses. So with the abundance of space, we are allowing for contractor parking, although we will insist that this will be reverse parking so that they can leave and enter the site in forward gear. There will, of course, be designated footpaths for all our pedestrian workers to navigate around site. And just on the parking side of things as well, we are going to encourage car sharing where possible, and with the local bus stop just round the corner, we are going to encourage the local trades to travel via public transport where possible and utilize the storage on site. Deliveries, again, these are going to be supervised by a qualified banksman or supervisor. And with the way we've set the site up, they can enter and exit the site in forward gear, and these will be staggered again to attempt to stagger them to avoid more than one delivery at any one time. Again, just to avoid that congestion on site and keep it as safe and happy as possible. Site entrance itself. Now, this will be a controlled zone and manned by security, mainly to stop trespass, But also the security guys are going to enforce the no stop rule all up and down School Road. Obviously, this plan will be constantly monitored, and all managerial personnel will be in constant communication, should need to be, via walkie-talkies, just in case anything unexpected comes up or becomes apparent. So I think you see with the traffic management, we've tried to address most issues just to keep the local area free and flowing, whilst also trying to make sure that our site is as safe as possible. So with that, we're going to move on to Wayne on welfare.
Thanks, Ollie. Hi, I'm Wayne. I'm the contracts manager. I won't necessarily be on site all the time, but obviously I will be in and out from time to time over the 30 weeks. The welfare facilities that we will have on site will be stacked to save space. And those welfare facilities will be plumbed into the existing services. We've had the routes checked, and we are able to use the existing services that are on site. So on site, we estimate maximum at any time of 30 tradesmen or women. So with the WC area, we will have 6 individual cubicles, each with their own sink for washing facilities. There will be a separate female cubicle. These cubicles will be cleaned twice a day by the labourer, once around sort of midday lunchtime area, and then at the end of each day, so it's ready for use the following morning. And there will also be a separate visitor toilet as well for yourselves and for any visitors that come to site, so you're not using the contractor toilets. The canteen area, so we will have 2 canteens, each armed with fridge, kettles, microwaves, running hot and cold water. There will also be a separate drinking water tap as well, to take it away from using the other water supply. There'll be 4 tables, 2 tables in each canteen, with long tables seating 8 people. So we will have a maximum of 32 chairs with backs for comfort, making sure that everybody's comfortable while they're having their breaks. Changing rooms, there'll be male and female changing rooms. There'll be 32 lockers within those changing rooms. There'll be a larger changing room for the males and a smaller changing room for the females. So there'll be 32 lockers. These will need to be emptied at the end of each day. So they're available for people to use. There will not be lockable ones within the changing rooms, but they will be need to be emptied at each day. There will also be showers within those change rooms. So if we have any local tradesmen cycling to work, they are able to shower if they need to at the end of the day or in the morning. Site office. The site office will have a meeting room, so we can have our own in-house meetings or client meetings or progress meetings, however the meeting room needs to be used. Inside the site office will be all the first aid equipment and the accident book. There will be a defibrillator within the site office, and obviously we have first aiders who are defibrillator trained as well. There will also be the emergency contact numbers for everybody within our team and everybody and the emergency services that are needed. All our welfare facilities will have storage heaters, electric storage heaters, so we can monitor obviously the heat to make sure that everybody is safe. And since the presentation, we have actually managed to make space for a drying room, so that if we get adverse weather, lots of rainy days, people can use the drying room to dry off and to dry clothes, etc. And then the smoking will only be designated in these designated smoking area that you would have seen on the site plan earlier. And that's our welfare facilities for the site. I'm now going to hand you to Andrew, who's going to talk you through the induction.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andy, the assistant site manager. I'm going to talk about the induction procedure. Site inductions will start every morning around 7:30 and should last half an hour in the site meeting room. Either the site manager or the health and safety manager on site will give the inductions. We'll be covering the inductions, the instructions of the company, including site managers, health and safety personnel and first aiders, the health and safety policy of the company, safety rules for site and an explanation to go with each one, emergency procedures for the company, including first aid, emergency muster points, fire safety, and other relevant information. Explain that all contractors will be working to their risk assessments and method statements. Give information on reporting requirements for accidents, incidents, and near misses within the company policy, along with associated documents and procedures. A brief introduction into safe working practices within the company. Information on site security, site openings, and closing times. Information on other special safety requirements of the company, such as hazardous substances and infection control, now because of COVID. We'll also talk about fitting in the issue of personal protective equipment. And there'll be a question and answer time at the end. All of the above presentation will be printed off into a handbook and given to the inductees. The inductees will have to sign a register to say that they've attended the induction and got a record of the induction to take home with themselves. Then finally, the new inductees will take on a walk through site so they can become familiar with the workplace, locations of key areas, and amenities. This induction will apply to all contractors and visitors to site. No one will be able to get into site first or be inducted and sign on to the induction register. All contractors will have a CS card to work on site. I'll now pass you over to Wayne for the site rules.
Thanks, Andy. So, as a company, as Wayne Enterprises, we have a number of generic site rules, and we also have site-specific site rules. So I'll take you through some of the site rules that we have. So on site, the manager's decision is final. The site manager's decision is final. We've got a typo there on the site hours because, as Ollie said earlier, the site hours are 8 till 5, but no one starts early and no one finishes late. No weekend works on site. Breaks are 10 a.m. And lunch between 12 and 1:30. Everyone must sign in and out at the security gate. There'll be no entry without signing in and out. Adhere to the speed limits on the site. Vehicles must park in the designated parking area. Everyone must follow the one-way system. Deliveries must be booked in prior to delivery. Only walk on the designated footpath areas. Respect everyone on site. Complete your induction before work commences. All materials to be put in the storage units until needed. Waste must go in the appropriate skips. No music is allowed on site. Keep site clean and tidy. A tidy site is a happy site. No ladders or steps allowed on site. Now, that's an individual Wayne Enterprises rule that we brought in 3 years ago. So there's no steps or ladders allowed on site unless there are no other means to be able to carry out your work. Then obviously you must have obtained a permit from the site manager or the site supervisor to carry out those works. Simple rules: no safety boots, no work. No hard hat, no work. No high vis, no work. Any additional PPE, again, site manager, site supervisor, communication with those if there's gloves, glasses, etc. that are needed on site. No risk assessment, no signed risk assessment, no work. No signed method statement, no work. If you need a permit, hot work permit to work, as I say, working at height permit, you can please obtain one from the site manager who will take you through it. Adhere to the emergency procedure. The fire test is every Monday at 9:30. So you must adhere to the fire procedure, the fire evacuation procedure. So only smoke in the designated area. And my task, this is one that we have at Wayne Enterprises. My job or task is never too important that it can't be done in a safe manner. So now the next slide shows just the key rules that Wayne Enterprises really enforce. Site manager's decision is final. Everyone must sign in and out of the site. Respect everyone on site. A tidy site is a happy site. And as I said earlier, my job or task is never too important that it can't be done in a safe manner. I'm now also going to take you through the site signage. So site signage, there will be a vast amount of site signage on site. There's probably too many signs for us to go into today, but there on the screen is just a few that we have. But all our signage will be in accordance with the HSE and CDM regulations. Now, there are 3 signs that we must have on site to comply with the HSE. That's the HSE law poster, our own company liability insurance, and our own company health and safety policy. The next slide will show the 5 key areas of the signage. So obviously you've got a prohibition site, which basically means no entry, no smoke, as it says there, example, no smoking. You must avoid. Mandatory signs that must happen. So if there's an eyewear protection, hard hat must be worn. Yellow signs are warning signs. These are things that you would warn about. So obviously, flammable areas, danger. Green signs that will be emergency escape routes. So they're just guiding signs for fire, etc. And then a red fire square rectangle fire extinguishers, fire safety signs. They're the main signs that we have, but there'll be vast amounts of signs throughout the site. I'll now hand you to Andy, who will talk you through document control.
It will be down to the site manager to be in charge of the document control. All files will be kept in folders in the site office, including method statements, cost data sheets, drawings, induction forms, insurances, and risk assessments. Certain documents, such as construction drawings, will be readily printed out and laminated and given to the contractors to be able to work from. These drawings will also be emailed over to the contractors, so they've always got a copy to go back to for every reason. If there are changes to drawings or risk assessments, for example, people who it affects will be notified as soon as possible, and they'll be gotten rid of. It'll also be made clear on the paperwork what the changes are to be and how it will affect the job going forward. I'll now pass over to Derek for the accident plan.
Good morning, all. My name is Derek. I'm the HSE manager, new to the company, but got vast experience working overseas. I'm just going to go over a few emergency arrangements and procedures and our mental health policy. We're going to use a 3-tier accident plan. We're using RIDDOR, which is a regulation from 2013, reporting of all injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrences. It puts duties on the employers, self-employed, and people in control of work premises, a responsible person, to report certain serious workplace accidents, occupational diseases, and specified dangerous occurrences, or any near misses. Any procedure in dealing with accidents, emergency incidents, all these have to be entered into our accident report book, ideally by the person having the accident, or the site manager, or the first aider, or the first aid rep. We require the date, time, and place of the accident, full name, address, and job of the required or ill persons, details of the injury or the illness, and what first aid was passed on or given. What happened to that person immediately afterwards? Was he sent back to work? Was he sent home, or was he sent on to hospital? We need a name and signature of the first aider or the person dealing with the incident. And also we need to pass this on to the agency representative, because we're going to have a number of agency workers working on the site. As I mentioned, we use the first tier, 3-tier program. The first tier is our lowest tier accidents, dealing with minor low-level accidents, slip, trips, and light abrasions. Nothing classed as serious injury and can be dealt with on site by a first aider. Our second tier is planned for incidents classed as serious, where the injured person has full consciousness but we do not have any life-threatening injuries. The need to contact emergency services, generally the ambulance, passing on as much details as I mentioned above as possible for the person and the type of injuries. Our third tier we have on site is emergency first aiders, who have all been EFA certified, which is emergency first aid at work. On site first aid, we will have AEDs, automatic external defibrillators. Plan is to have people trained on that from our own company, and we're also going to look at some of the agency workers. Our first aiders have been CPR trained. We can assess if there's bones. Some of the issues will also be panic attacks, especially with the agency workers working at height. So we'll be discussing that on toolbox meetings. And if we have any serious injuries resulting in loss of blood, we will continue giving first aid until the paramedics or ambulances arrive. Next, please, is the emergency arrangements. We have contacted the police, the ambulance, and the hospital, as you see in the asterisk there. I'll point that out later on, and also the fire emergency services. We have introduced the company to all the local emergency services supervisors for this area and explained who we are and what we'll be doing over the coming days, weeks, months. We've informed there's no work planned at weekends. A site map has been also passed on to the services, explaining all the entry routes, one-way systems, and safe areas where we to put any emergency services if needed. Also supplied is a list of necessary staff contact details, the HSE rep, myself, the project and site managers, in case they need to communicate with anybody on site. We've also passed on the client reps details in case they need to speak directly to the client reps. A few emergency procedures on site. So what we're going to do on toolbox meetings and site induction, who to contact in case of a fire, all the necessary telephone numbers, who the site fire marshals and wardens are, and this will be indicated on the site notice board, the site sign-in book, which will be used when there's a fire drills, where the muster point is. Fire alarms, as Wayne mentioned, will be weekly fire drills, alarm going off. We're hoping to have monthly fire drills and the weekly routine fire checks, as mentioned earlier on. There will be a first aider room with first aiders with the defibrillators. Due to the current emergency services issues within the country, the company will be installing an AED on site, and there are plans to train all permanent staff on the usage. With a number of agency workers, there will also be additional on-site training to have supervisors also trained. Next slide, please. Mental health policy. Our company has adopted a mental health policy. Just for your knowledge, the Mental Health Act 1983 is a main piece of legislation that covers assessment, treatment, and the rights of people with mental health disorders. We as a company are taking huge strides to implement standards on our work sites to improve the mental health and well-being of our work staff and the agency as well. The company has started mental health work plan, produced, implemented, and communicated at work plan, promoting mental health awareness among all employees, including the agency workers. We encourage open conversations and there is support available. We ensure excellent working conditions and promote a healthy work and life balance. We will have regular conversations about health and well-being, and we will monitor health and well-being in our workplace. We have adopted the use of the St John's Ambulance Mental Health and Wellbeing Checklist, which will be in the site plan. Why are we using this list? It will assist in understanding our workforce and give the employees, if they don't wish to speak up front, a chance to speak privately. Permanent staff have undergone various mental health and wellbeing first aid training courses, and will use this frequently on our toolbox topics. A copy of the checklist will be on the site notice board and all in the relevant site-specific work documents for any work activity. Our safe systems of work for all our activities are all work in progress, and as explained, I've been working with your client rep ongoing with this project. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Derek. That was great. So on to permissions and notifications. So, guys, it goes without saying that a number of notifications and permissions are needed and will continue to be nurtured as we approach the start of this project. We can't stress how important this is for the smooth running and for the avoidance of any delays on this project. Now, many of these are legally and statutory requirements, such as the F10 and the planning permission, but many of them are just good housekeeping and good manners. And we're hoping that, as you can see, the detail that we've gone into with a lot of these notifications, this will reassure you that you've made the right decision in choosing Wayne Enterprises. So at the top there, you can see, obviously, this is a F10 notifiable. This has been submitted and it has been approved. The local council planning has been granted. Pre-commencement conditions often overlooked, and we can confirm that all of these have now been discharged. This in itself has a whole host of surveys and meetings. For example, there's topographical surveys and material amendments, all that need to be discharged before we can actually stick a spade in the ground. It's a greenfield site, as you know, through the planning. difficult to deal with, but the ecological factors and the environmental controls have to be in place. And you'll be pleased to know they are. Bat boxes, newt guards, the Environmental Agency, they've all been notified. And we want to make sure that this wildlife not only survives, but thrives. There are trees on site, guys. So obviously, arboricultural report was needed. As Damon notified earlier and said, due to the fact that these trees are in a relatively, not tricky location, but they are relatively central, we're going to need to protect them. So we'll be sheeting them up and making sure that no plant or any damage is caused to them during the duration of this project. And obviously, some of the biggest ones that can cause the biggest delays on site, the infrastructure. Again, with the ecological side to this development, we've got no gas. So we're only focusing on the electricity and the water, good old southern water. And it's also important to note that we have obviously had to take into account the temporary building supply on this site. It isn't just a case of getting the services in for the development. We need to get the temporary building supplies in there for the likes of our welfare units, for the likes of our toilets, and obviously it's just a whole organism that we're trying to make sure is up to scratch before anyone starts on site. So the notifications, again, local school and residents, we've notified the head teacher, dropped a letter to the school governors and the parents via signage. I know there's been a lot of interest from people being dropped off at school. The local farmer and his wife have been notified, as have the houses on Scotleigh Road. Now, from our experience, it's always best to get on the front foot with this. It's good, Matt. It's good practice. Letting people know before and ahead of time what's to come just gets any unnecessary uncomfort out the way for these residents and allows us to crack on with the job once we're on site. We've obviously let the local highway authorities know, the local emergency services, police, ambulance, and hospital. That's just a prerequisite. Obviously, we're just trying to make cross the T's and dot the I's there. We're obviously hoping to run a safe site and hope that they won't be needed, but it's always good to let them know exactly where we are and exactly what we're operating. And again, new build warranty provider and all insurers across the board, site insurance, public liability insurance, employers liability insurance, they've all been notified and they're ready to go and happy with what we're doing. So yeah, if you go to the next slide, last but not least, any other business, we've got the sustainability of the development, i.e. recycling of waste. We've got the local tradesmen used where possible. Initially, we're going to talk with the school to highlight the risks of the building site. Obviously, this is a key area for us with a school right next door. We want to make sure that it's safe, and we know what kids are like with their inquisitive little minds. So we want to make sure that they are fully aware, and then ongoing monthly talks so that that they know exactly where the risks lay. We've also implemented a competition for the children's art to be displayed on the hoarding as part of the development and part of the marketing strategy. And as mentioned earlier, we operate a front foot policy with communication with the locals. That includes letter drops, quarterly site tours where it's safe to do so. And just last but not least, obviously all our employees are DBS checked, and we do conduct random drug and alcohol testing throughout the project to make sure, again, safety is paramount. So, well, we've just come to the end of our presentation now. Hopefully that wasn't too long for you guys. A wise man once told us you can overdo it with the slides. So we want to make sure that you guys are totally happy. Last, all that's left to say is thank you for your business and ongoing trust. And we'd like to open up the floor to any sensible questions.
And it is traditional, before we go into that, let's just give that a round of applause, guys. Come on.
Oh,
Bravo.
excellent.
Oh,
Bravo. Right, let me stop there. Okay. So, you've got a handle up already, Ollie. I'll let you handle the questions. Over to you guys.
Yes, Bianca.
So first of all, I want to say thank you. That was great, and I love the idea of the competition for the kids at the local school. I thought that was amazing. Really love the idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing the artwork. Just out of interest, I'm not trying to catch you out. I just don't know how I would do it. What would you do about people that are late for work and then therefore miss inductions and things like that?
Well, I mean, obviously we need to. There's an element of personal responsibility. You know, from our point of view, the site is open. We're not going to operate a no, and if you're late on the one-off occasion that the bus didn't turn up or your car broke down, then it's something that can be accommodated. What we're trying to avoid is mass ensemble of builders and tradesmen arriving at exactly the same time as the parents and kids are dropping off their kids. There's always going to be anomalies to any building site. There's always got to be flexibility. There's always got to be give and take from our point of view and from the local community. So if someone is consistently late, then yeah, there'll be a range of procedures, whether it's a warning, maybe a second warning, and if it carries on, then yeah, there will be consequences to that action. But generally speaking, one-off, if someone is late on the one-off, you know, that can't really be helped, because 9 times out of 10, I mean, I'm late sometimes, so I'm sure you're late sometimes. But yeah, that's generally going to be our policy on that. I hope that answers.
No, I suppose what I meant was, if somebody was late and missed their induction, would they still be allowed to work? Or
No, they'd obviously have to do their induction. So if they'd missed the induction that day, then obviously they would have to that they wouldn't be able to work that day. But we've got a number of people on site that can carry out the inductions. You know, we've got site supervisors, site managers, project managers. There are a number of competent people on site. So there is. I mean, the reason we do it in the beginning of the day is obviously to be able to crack on throughout the rest and get on with the project. But if someone is late and there is somebody available to carry out an induction, it can be accommodated.
Okay. And then my other question was, first of all, I was really impressed that you've got. You pride yourself in your excellent working conditions and work-life balance, which is, you know, very forward-thinking and modern and great to hear. I just wondered what you meant. What are your working conditions? What's so excellent about them, and what do you define as a good work-life balance?
That's a good question. That is being cried. That question written down. Good question.
Does anyone want to step in here, guys?
Yeah, well, it's quite simple one, really. It's a bit of an open door policy. If there's any issues on site, talk to us. You know, we see we can sort it out. We don't promote working long, silly hours. You know, it's nice, simple 8 hours, so you can get up in the morning, have breakfast with your kids if you have kids, get home and have your tea, put them to bed. You know, we've all got kids. You know, we've missed a few hours of the growing up, so that's what we want. We don't want to, you know, promote you've got to work silly hours to get this project done. It's done in this time frame, done safely. If you don't get done today, it gets done tomorrow. You know, that's why we allow a little bit more time sometimes on our projects for that reason. You know, it's simple as that, really. There's no need for stress and pressure if you don't need it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We've got quiz night every third Thursday.
That's wonderful, Damo. Thank you. That's all of my questions. I can't wait for you guys to be my contractors.
Thanks,
we'll turn up on time as well, though, so you'll be all right.
Danny, you've got a question. Do you want to?
Yeah. So
got an itch,
I couldn't help but notice. Obviously, it's, as you know, it's a greenfield site, which means there's no existing infrastructure, there's no drainage, no services. One thing that I'd like to highlight was the welfare facilities. Is that going to be connected to the mains foul drainage system? And the reason I ask is because on previous projects we've had neighbours and local businesses complain about septic tanks being emptied. And if it is on a septic tank, I'd just like to know what your control measures are in terms of timings, how often it's to be emptied, to try and reduce the pollution of the air surrounding the project.
It's direct with no septic tanks or anything like that. We're going to get all that infrastructure in before we site the cabins and stuff. So we're going to connect onto that for as welfare. So there'll be no septic tanks. There'll be none of that, because we all know they are not nice, especially with 30 people on a job. It's not going to take long to fill up. So they do stink, they're horrible, so we're going to straight on to the mains, everything.
And my other question, I've just in request, this would be more of a request, to be honest with you, but where you have the material storage area, I've noticed you have it on the north flank, right next to the school. With the material storage area comes deliveries and plant. Could I make a request to move that to the south flank to try and keep that closer to the main road?
Yeah, we can surely look at that for you. That's no reason why we can't. Something we can't look at the minute. We'll have to go away and have a little look at the actual setup we've got in place, see what we can move around to accommodate that. But Ollie, would you agree that's something we can have a look at?
Let's certainly take it in consideration. Let's you say we'll go away, have a look at the kick around, but we'll take it under consideration and get back to you, see what we can accommodate.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
And that is 6 minutes, believe it or not. So let's give it a final round of applause. Well done, guys. Well done. Right, let me just put an end of the recording. So I'll back on the fruity language.